Okay, we are live. I'll just wait one more minute. We'll start at 3. Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to Cracku's video series. Today we will be talking about IIM Bangalore's UG admissions test. As we know, if you're all here, you already know that IIM Bangalore has recently started with their UG newly introduced UG programs, BSc Honors in Economics and BSc Honors in Data Sciences. So these are two new courses. They are just starting, they're rolling out the admissions this year, and the exam is later in December. So we at Cracku, we've started with a series of live sessions where we discuss the syllabus. It's completely free, it's on YouTube, and we also have curated 5 high quality mocks catered to this IIM Bangalore program, so you can check that out in the Cracku website. Anyways, so moving on with the program, so we have 2 programs that they're starting. One is a BSc Honors in Economics, another one is a BSc Honors in Data Sciences. The eligibility for the programs is you have to have completed class 12th, you have to have had mathematics as one of the subjects, and the qualifying marks in math should be at least 60%. And yeah, like most of the other MBA exams, we'll have an entrance test and then an interview. So the entrance test is December 13th, if I'm not wrong, and after that the entrance test, the interviews will be there. Okay, now getting to the entrance test, which is a 120-minute test. It will be computer based with 60 MCQ questions. Of the 60 questions, 30 will be from quantitative and data interpretation. So like essentially quants, maths, and interpreting charts and all of that. That has like the most, like the biggest chunk, 30 questions from there. 15 questions will be from English comprehension. English comprehension might include something like reading comprehensions, para jumbles, para summaries, or some grammar also. Grammar is essentially what we will be discussing in today's session. And also there is logical reasoning and critical reasoning, which will have 15 questions. There will be negative marks. So it's like probably it's a +3 - 1 or like a +1 - 1/3 kind of a scenario. We are not very sure on that. But yeah, although they have not released a formal syllabus yet, we somewhat know that there are certain topics which most definitely are going to be included. Grammar is one of them. We need to learn grammar, right? Because whatever kind of English comprehensions we are approaching, we will need some amount of grammatical base to approach for them, be it like an RC passage or be it like some para jumbles or some error detection, finding out the error in the sentences. All of that, we need to know some basics of grammar. So this is one of the starting classes for grammar, where we will be discussing everything grammar. We'll start the session right, like, at the very basics. We'll start by discussing what a sentence is. So, hello, Girish. Okay, good evening. Okay, so we'll start by discussing what a sentence is. So essentially, when we talk about like a sentence, what do we mean is, it is essentially a group of words that makes a complete sense. Now, when we say a group of words, it can be a random arrangement of words, right? But that will not make any sense. Like he, cow, was. 3 words, it's a group. But does this make any sense? It doesn't, right? So essentially, whenever we are talking about a sentence, it has to be a group of words that makes some sense, so that when we read it, we understand like, okay, this is what it is trying to convey to us, right? And a a sentence can essentially be of four types. It can be something called an assertive sentence. An assertive sentence is basically a general statement, like say I am good, or like he was busy, just general statements. Those are called assertive or declarative sentences. Or like something negative also, like he was not busy. This is also a assertive sentence. It can be affirmative, which means like a positive. It can be negative, which is implying something negative, but in a sense it's a general statement, right? So we call them assertive sentences, assertive or declarative, which is like essentially declaring something. Second type of sentence can be something called an interrogative sentence. An interrogative sentence is something which does an interrogation. What is an interrogation? It's a question essentially, like was he busy? This is a question, right? We are asking, was he really busy or something? So stuff like that, we call them interrogative sentences. The third kind of sentences we have is called a imperative sentence. And what is an imperative sentence? An imperative sentence is basically something which gives us an order, something which gives us a request, something which is a proposal. So anything like that, we call it an imperative sentence. Like the teacher asks the student to go there. So the teacher is somewhat commanding or ordering the student, right? Go there. Something like that is called an imperative sentence. Or I asked her if we can go out today. So that is like a proposal. Like I'm asking her to like, can we go out today? Something like that. So those kind of sentences are called imperative sentences. And we have a fourth kind of sentence called the exclamatory sentences, which are essentially exclamations, like wow, this is so pretty, like sentences starting with wow, or like sentences starting with oh what a beautiful flower, something like that. They usually have terms like this, or like she exclaimed with joy, even using words like that, which essentially imply that sense, like she's overwhelmed, she's like very excited, something like that. Those kind of sentences, we call them exclamatory sentences. So this is essentially the four different kind of sentences that we have. One more thing which is very important for a sentence is, what is the sentence about, right? We've understood that there are four different types, but what is the sentence about? So then comes the topic of subject and predicate. Whatever the sentence is about is called the subject. Like Ram went to Lanka, right? So in this sentence, what is the sentence about? The sentence is about Ram. So Ram here is the subject. And what did Ram do? Ram went to Lanka. So whatever the subject is doing, or like saying, or like whatever it is about the subject, whatever remaining thing is there in the sentence, that we call to be a predicate. Right, so this is essentially a very broad classification for a sentence. Like any sentence you pick up, you can divide it into either a subject or a predicate. Right, whatever sentence, like she was sorry. The sentence is about this she. Who is this she? We don't know, but this she is someone, right? And this someone was sorry. So this she is the subject. And what was she? She was sorry. This is no action, like she was in a state of sorrow. So whatever it is, that is called a predicate. Great to see all the efforts you guys are putting to grow a good community. Thank you so much. I hope these video lectures are helpful for you guys. Okay, anyway, so moving on. Next, first we understood that there is a very broad classification for sentences. We have the subject and the predicate. Next, when we go into a bit more detail about a sentence, we understand there is something called the parts of speech. So whatever it is a sentence, it can be whatever word is there in the sentence, okay, it has a very specific function in the sentence. It can either be telling us what the sentence is about, or it might be like what is the subject doing in the sentence, or it can be, you know, something which is modifying certain things in the sentence, like giving more explanation, something like that. Whatever it is, if there is a sentence, it can be classified into one of these 8 things. These 8 things are called the parts of a speech. So they are the noun, pronoun, verb, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. So we'll just skim through them once. What is a noun? A noun is essentially a naming word, right? Anything that gives a name is a noun. Like Sita went to the forest. So Sita is a noun because Sita is the name. So whatever it is a name, it can be a name, it can be a place, it can be a thing, it can be something, you know, concrete, which you can touch, like a toothpaste, like a toothbrush, things essentially. It can also be something which is abstract. When I say abstract, I mean like, you know, something like honesty is the best policy. So here honesty is what? Honesty is not something which is the name of a person. It is not something which we can touch, right? It is intangible. But this is also a noun. It is an abstract noun. So nouns have various classes. They can be a proper noun, common noun. Proper noun is in like a name of a person, like Sita. A common noun can be something which is common, like the girl or the woman or cows, for instance. That is common noun. But if the cow is named something, let's say the cow is named Malati, then Malati is a proper noun. There can be abstract nouns like honesty, beauty, truthfulness, all of that stuff. And there can be collective nouns also, like army, which is a collection of soldiers, right? Or it can be like a pride of lions, like a group of lions. So many things can be nouns. So nouns can essentially be like anything that is giving us a name. It can be abstract also. Pronoun is like a brother to noun. Okay, a pronoun is something which is used in place of a noun. Like for instance, in this sentence, let's say Sita went to the forest. She got lost. Here we understand that this she is referring to Sita, right? If we are putting it together in one sentence, Sita went to the forest, Sita got lost. So instead of writing Sita, Sita again and again, that becomes somewhat redundant, right? Instead of that, we can use something called a pronoun. So a pronoun is essentially something that is used in place of a noun to avoid this repetition of sorts. Next, we have something called the verb. The verb is essentially an action word, like anything which describes an action or the state as in like the position you are in currently, that is called an verb. Like he was running. Running is an action, right? He was running, physical action. So this running is a verb. He is the subject, it is a noun. Was is also a verb. It's called a helping verb or an auxiliary verb. So this can be an example for a verb like running. There can be another thing also, like he was asleep or he was sleeping, right? So when I say he was sleeping, sleeping is not something which is a very physical activity to do, right? He was lying down and sleeping. So you might think like, okay, this is not an action, so how can this be a verb? So whenever we are talking about verbs, we tell words that describe action or state. What is the state right now for the second sentence? The state is he is asleep. So those kind of things come under verbs. Next, we have something called the adjective. Now, what is an adjective? Adjective is something which qualifies a noun. What do I mean when I say qualify? Qualify means it is like adding on to it essentially. Like, let's say, we write Sita wore a gown, or Sita wore a sari. Right, in this sentence, Sita is the subject, it is a noun. Wore is the past form of wear, right, wearing. So that is a verb. A sari is a noun. Okay. Now if we write Sita wore a beautiful sari. In this sentence, again we have Sita as the noun, wore is the verb, a sari we know is the noun. What is this beautiful doing? It is adding a complement, adding like a layer of complement. It is modifying essentially the sari. It is telling us how the sari was beautiful. So it is giving a qualitative addition. So words like that, it can mean something positive. It can also be like, something negative. Like he was a dreadful man. Like he was a very dishonest man. So as a man, he was not very honest. He was very dishonest. So anything like that which adds on to a noun, which adds on to a pronoun, that is called an adjective. Next we have the adverb, which is similar to adjectives in functioning, but the difference is while an adjective qualifies a noun or a pronoun, an adverb can qualify a verb, it can also qualify an adjective, or it can also qualify another adverb. So and adjectives and adverbs together, they also are referred to as something called the modifiers. Why are they called the modifiers? Because they essentially modify, right? They make something better, something worse. So modifiers. Adverb can be something which qualifies a verb. It can be something which qualifies an adjective. It can also be something which qualifies another adverb. Like he runs fast, right? He is the subject, it is the noun. Runs is the verb. How does he run? He runs fast. So fast is qualifying the verb, right? So fast becomes an adverb. So next we have something called the preposition. What is a preposition? Preposition tells us the relationship between two things in the sentence, between the noun, as in like where is it? Like it can be a preposition of time, it can be a preposition of place, which tells us like, when did this thing occur, or like where is this thing, or like how did this occur. Some sentence stuff like that, it is answered by the prepositions. Like let's take an example sentence. The man hid behind the poster. So the man, we understand, is the noun, it is the subject. Hid is the past for hide. So this is the verb. The poster, again we have a noun. Where did the man hide? The man hid behind the poster. So behind is essentially giving us what? It is giving us a position of the subject, right? It is giving us a position of the noun. So words like these, like behind, in, on, under, between, among, the list is not, it's a long list, it can be many things. So all those things, we call them prepositions. Next we have something called conjunctions. Conjunctions are essentially which join two parts of sentences together, right? Conjunctions can be like and, or, though, like he was happy yet not satisfied. So we understand that he was happy but he was not satisfied. This yet is doing what? It is joining these two parts together. These two different ideas it's joining together. So words that do this kind of a thing, they are called conjunctions. Conjunctions can be coordinating conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions. We'll discuss them later. But yeah, so essentially we understand that something which is joining two ideas together is called a conjunction. And interjection is something which we discussed during exclamatory sentences, right? Like, oh, wow, stuff like that, we call them interjections. Okay, so this was a brief overview of the parts of speech. Let's move on to the next. We have an example sentence. We will try to identify for all the words in the sentence, like what is their part of speech. So initially we understand that we have the school teacher, right? The school teacher is obviously a noun. Hastily announced the test and glared at his shocked students. Okay, announced the test. What did he announce? He announced the test. So this is again another noun. Glared at his shocked students. So students is another noun, right? All of them naming words. Next, let's find we have the noun, then we have the pronoun, right? Pronoun is essentially anything that is used in place of a noun. The school teacher glared at his shocked students. His is referring to whom? His is referring to the school teacher. So this becomes a pronoun. As they groaned, they again tells us about the students, right? So this again becomes a pronoun. This is used, they and his is used instead of using students and the school teacher. So pronouns done. Next we have the verb. What is a verb? The action. What are the actions being done here? This announcement is an action, like the school teacher announcing something. This is an action. So this is a verb. Glared at his shocked students. Glared as in to, like, you know, aankhein badi karke jo bolte hain, glared at them. This again is an action, right? So this again becomes a verb. As they groaned. Groaned is again another verb. After verb, we have something called adjectives. Adjectives are what? They are something which describes a noun. Here you see we have shocked students. How were the students? The students were shocked. So what is shocked doing here? Shocked is giving us more information, qualifying, modifying this noun which is students, right? So shocked becomes a adjective. Similarly, hastily announced. Hastily is doing what? Hastily is in jaldi jaldi. So jaldi jaldi he announced. So what is this hastily doing? It's qualifying announced. So hastily also becomes a adverb. It's not an adjective, keep that in mind. Why? Because shocked is qualifying for students, which is a noun. So therefore it is an adjective, but hastily is qualifying for the verb here, which is announced. So hastily becomes an adverb. And is very obviously the conjunction. At his students. Glared at, glare jo kiya, wo kahan kiya? At the students, right? So therefore this at is a preposition. And oh no, this is an expression, right? This becomes the interjection. So this is like essentially the sentence, and like each part we can like divide, and like, you know, each word has a very specific function in the sentence. Knowing that helps us in many cases. It helps us with like error detection. Like when we are reading something, we understand that okay, this word is talking about this thing. So it helps with like making those connections also. Okay, moving on. Okay, now we have something in prepositions. In prepositions, there can be a lot of prepositions, right? And a lot of prepositions might seem like, okay, this can also be correct, this can also be correct, but the thing is, there are certain grammatical rules for each of the statements. Like every preposition has a specific rule, like this is where I'll use this is where I'll use the other one. So why is this important? Because they might not ask you directly in the exam ki like tell us about what is like the correct preposition here. This comes very handy in error detection. Like, you know, identify the error kind of sentences. They'll use a sentence which sounds and looks very correct. The preposition is wrong. So, and because the preposition is wrong, the sentence is not grammatically correct. So, for error identification questions, correct the sentence questions, this is very important. So, let's just discuss this. Like at, in, and on, all three of them sound very like similar, right? Like he was. In case of time, we use at for a specific time. We use in for months or years and on for days and dates. What do I mean by that? Let's consider the event was scheduled at 9 o'clock. Like a very specific time we are giving, right? At 9 o'clock. In let's say September, on a Monday. So when we say days or dates, like, you know, something on the 24th, something like that. When we have a specific date or day, tabhi we use on. When we have a specific time, we use at, and when we have a specific month or a year, we use in. So we have to identify that. Like in questions, they can do something like the event was scheduled on September. So if they write on September, it might sound very correct, but the correct preposition should be in September and not on September. So for stuff like that, this error commonly confused prepositions is very important. And speaking from an exam point of view, it is very much likely that they might put something like error detection instead of putting something like, you know, fill in the blanks with the proper preposition, because identifying errors is like a harder thing to do, right? So this might be something that they give. Similarly, in case of places, at is used for a specific point, like let's meet at the bus stop, specific point. In an enclosed space, let's meet in the auditorium, or like let's meet in the hotel lobby, which is enclosed space on the inside. And on is used for a surface. Let's meet on the playground, for instance, like we are literally meeting on the surface of the playground, right? So that is also something which we need to keep in mind for at, in, and on. Below, under, and beneath, they also have sound very similar, right? The cat was below the table, the cat was under the table, the cat was beneath the table. But all three of them actually imply different meanings, and contextually you can't use all of them anyways. Like for instance, under is used when there is a direct physical contact, like the I kept my house keys under the mat. So matlab the mat is directly touching the house keys. So in those cases we'll use under. Below is used for a relative position. Relative position, I mean, like if something is above, then this is below. Like the pen is below the bottle, right? We know that the bottle is above the pen. It's a relative position. Both of them are above the table. Again, a relative position. So those kind of situations we use below. Or also, like, you know, for temperatures also, like temperature below 0, right? We don't really know what specifically 0 degrees is, right? Like when we say 0, what is 0 for a 0 degree centigrade is not same for a 0 degree Fahrenheit. It's not same for a 0 degree Kelvin. And also, like, the scale itself is relative, right? We've taken 1 point. So for relative things, we'll use below. Beneath is a more formal thing. Like, he looked beneath the surface. Like, beneath is used mostly in case of formal contexts. Since, for, and from. Since is used when there is a definite starting point. Like, I have been living here since 2019. Or for is used for a more unspecific, like, I have been living here for a long time. This is, like, one of the favorites among teacher question paper setters. They'll put it like, I've been living here since a long time. So since a long time is not correct, for a long time is correct. Or like, for 6 years. For 6 years, which 6 years we don't know. But if we say the last 6 years, then we are like defining the point, right? From here to the 6 years behind, the last 6 years. So tabhi we'll use since, and otherwise we use for. From is used with like to or until, like, he works from 6 to 8, but he works for 8 hours. That is the thing. In and into. In is an existing state or position. The students are in the class. Into is more like getting into something. Like, he is in the band, like he's a part of the band, but he jumped into the pool. Like, he physically went inside the pool. By and with. By indicates the agent. With indicates the tool. Like, he signed the document by the manager. The document was signed by the manager with a pen. Like, kiske help se sign kiya, that is used with. And who did it? The who is the agent, right? The agent, there we use by. Between and among, this is another one. Between is used when there's like 2 people. Among is used when there's more than 2 people. Like, the mangoes were distributed among the children, many children, or the mangoes were distributed between the 2 brothers, right? There are only 2 brothers, so between is fine here. Among is used when there is more than 2. Okay, let's move on to the okay, so now we have a question. So in this question, we have to identify the part of the sentence that has the error. So read the sentence, see if you can find an error. It is probably something which we just discussed. So try answering it. All the best. Okay, okay, so in this question, the conference will begin on 9 a.m. sharp in the main auditorium, followed by a networking lunch. Okay, so we understand that here probably the error is in the preposition that is being used. Okay, so we just discussed, right? When we have something of a specific time, it should always be at. So the conference will begin at 9 a.m. sharp should be the correct alternative. In the main auditorium is correct because the auditorium is an enclosed space. So in an enclosed space we use in. So this is correct. Followed by a networking lunch, followed by is also correct. So we find error in part B. So option B should be the correct choice here. Okay, now we have something called same words which are used as different parts of speech. like we cannot essentially assign one particular word ki like okay, this will be like a verb only at all cases. We cannot say that. Like for instance, in the first example only, when we say run, it seems to be like running is an action, right? So it should always be a verb in all cases, but that's not the case. See, in the second sentence we have she runs every morning before work. So here run is doing what? Run is giving us a physical activity, right? Running. So here this runs is a verb, but she went for a run. Here run is not telling us ki action. She is gone to run, that we are told, but the action is what? She went, like go. She has gone. The going is the action. So went here is the verb. Here the run is a noun. So similarly, we have two other sentences also. The point is we cannot essentially determine that one particular word will always be one particular part of speech. So essentially we have to keep that in mind, read the sentence and understand that what is the function that the word is performing here. Like for the second sentence, the sun shone brightly. Shone is the past for shine. Okay, so here we are told that the sun shined brightly. So shining is a verb, right? Brightly is doing what? Brightly is telling us how it was shining. It was shining very brightly. So here brightly is an adjective. Sorry, it's an adverb. Second sentence though, the bright sun shone. Again here shone is the verb only. Because the bright sun, what did it do? The bright sun shined. But the bright here is not talking about shining. Bright here is talking about the sun. The sun is a noun. So bright here becomes an adjective. So see, like here both the sentences have a very similar structure, but just based on how we are placing the word bright once near the verb, it is an adverb, and when we are like using it to qualify the noun, it becomes an adjective. For the next pair, he arrived soon after. He left after the rain stopped, and he left after lunch. He left after the rain stopped. Here after is doing what? He left and the rain stopped. There are two ideas. It's joining both the ideas. So this becomes a conjunction. He arrived soon after. Here after is doing what? Along with soon, it is qualifying the verb which is arrived. When he arrived soon. Soon after. So after here is essentially qualifying soon, which is qualifying arrived. So it becomes an adverb. And for the third statement, he left after lunch. When did he leave? He left after lunch. Here after is doing what? It is a preposition. Because it is telling us ki like when did he leave? He left after lunch. Okay. Next we have another question. In this question we are supposed to identify we have 4 sentences we are given. All of them have used the word right. We have to identify which is the correct, like which is which, where right has been used as a noun, where it has been used as a verb, where as an adverb, and where as an adjective. Okay. Okay, let's just go through the statements. The statements are, I always believed that it was the right thing to do. After thinking for a while, I realized that Faisal was right all along. The fundamental rights of the citizens should not be compromised, and the elephant was standing right behind the bull. Okay, so let's start with the easiest. Okay, the elephant was standing right behind the bull. Right behind the bull. Where was the elephant standing? Right behind the bull. Talking about the position, right? Where? So this is a preposition. The fundamental rights of a citizen should not be compromised. The fundamental rights. This is a noun, right? Because fundamental rights together. They're talking about the fundamental rights of the citizen should not be compromised. The entire sentence is about the fundamental rights. So it is the subject. So this is noun. So we have 1C. Okay. Now when we see 1C, we understand that based on elimination, we can essentially eliminate 1D, 1A, 1D, right? Because 1C is only one of the statements this is given here. So option C should be the correct. So this is another thing like which you should be keeping in mind whenever you are like attempting questions, attempting MCQ questions. Option elimination is something which is very powerful. Like you don't really have to solve the entire thing. If we can infer the correct answer based on the options, you should go for it, because that saves time, and little by little a lot of time is being saved that way, which can add up to like doing an additional question per se. So option C should be the correct answer here. Next we have something called phrases and clauses. What is a phrase and what is a clause? So we learned something called a sentence, right? A group of words that makes sense. A sentence can have something called a phrase, which is a group of words that does not make sense on its own, but when you put it along with something else, tabhi it makes sense. So those kind of words, we call them phrases. See, a group of words acting as a single part of speech. It does not express a complete thought and does not make sense on its own. A phrase does not make complete sense on its own, but when used with other things, it can amplify the meaning. It can be something called a noun phrase, which is like a noun entire thing. Like in the previous sentence, the fundamental rights, right? 3 words, fundamental rights and the, all 3 of them together, that is a noun phrase. Or here a tall building, ek saath mein, it is a noun acting as like a noun, so tabhi we call it a noun phrase. It can be a verb phrase, it can be a prepositional phrase, like in the garden. Where was he? In the garden. So those kind of sentences, prepositional phrases usually begin with a preposition. They are called prepositional phrases. Verb phrases is running fast, something like that. There can also be something called a phrasal verb, where like a group of words together, which makes a very different meaning altogether. So a phrase is a group of words that acts as a single part of speech, and it does not have both a subject and a finite. It can have a subject, it will not have a verb, or it can just be a verb but not have a subject. Either case, for it to be a sentence, there should be a subject and there should be a verb, right? Because it doesn't have both of them, so it is not a sentence, it's like a part of a sentence. A clause, on the other hand, it has a subject and a verb. But still, there are some clauses which do not make complete sense. Some of them do make complete sense. The ones which do make complete sense on their own, we call them principal or independent clauses. And the ones that do not make complete sense on their own, we call them subordinate clauses. Like see, she smiled because she was happy. She smiled, if we just take this portion out, she smiled, it makes sense, right? But when we say because she was happy, this doesn't make sense. Because she was happy, so what? Right? It's an incomplete thought. It makes some sense, but it's an incomplete thought. So for those incomplete thoughts, we call them dependent or subordinate clauses, and for the complete thoughts, we call them independent clauses. So a clause is a group of words with a subject and a verb. There should be a subject and a verb. It can make a proper sense, it might not make a complete sense. That is why we have two types of clauses. But for a phrase, it has either a subject or a verb. It doesn't have both, because if it has both, then it becomes a clause. Why clauses are important is because there is something called simple, compound, and complex sentences. So these three types of sentences are divided based on the number of clauses in the sentences. Okay, like in case of a simple sentence, it's just one clause, one independent clause that makes sense, right? Like she was at the party. Here we have she, subject, was is the verb, at the party is the where the subject was, right? So this entire thing again becomes a predicate. This is a simple sentence. A compound sentence is two simple sentences joined using and, but, like coordinating conjunctions. Compound sentence can be like she was there, but she wasn't alone. So she was there is one clause, she wasn't alone is another clause. Both of them together joined by but. These kind of sentences are called compound sentences. Compound sentences have something called the coordinating conjunctions. There is an easy trick to remember the coordinating conjunctions. It's called fanboys. Like we have for, and, nor, but, Y is for yet, S is for still. So this is like an acronym where you get all the coordinating conjunctions. So it kind of helps, like if you see anything joined using one, okay, O I missed, O is for or. So two sentences which are joined by one of these seven, it is very likely that it is a compound sentence. A complex sentence, on the other hand, is a sentence which is not directly joined that way. It has two clauses, one principal clause or independent clause, and one subordinate clause or the dependent clause. Like this sentence only, she was there but she wasn't alone. So if I write it, although she was there, she wasn't alone. In this case, she wasn't alone is a tukra which makes sense on its own, a complete sense. So this is called the main clause. Although she was there, so what, right? Like it's an incomplete thought. So this is called a subordinating clause. So, and although is called a subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunctions can be although, though, because, if. Subordinating conjunctions, we don't really have a small acronym like that because there can be many things. So this is essentially what a simple, a complex, and a compound sentence is. They do ask at times to identify what is this conversion. If it's like a simple to complex or like a complex to compound, you can essentially convert from one of these type of sentences to the other through like some twerks here and there. But anyways, they do ask it sometimes, so it is important that way. Let's move on to the next topic. Modifiers. This is again something which is very favorite for like all the error for the error kind of questions, modifiers is very a favorite topic. What does a modifier mean? So a modifier essentially is something which is modifying. It can be an adjective, it can be an adverb, it can be a phrase also. Like when I say she was running in the park. So where was she running? She was running in the park. So this in the park is essentially qualifying running, right? So although this is a prepositional phrase because it uses a preposition, it also becomes an adverb while, you know, based on the functioning. So it becomes something called an adverbial prepositional phrase. So, but we don't need to get into all that grammar. What is the issue with modifiers is there is something called dangling modifiers, there is something called misplaced modifiers, and there is something called redundant modifiers. Again, names are just for the sake of it. You need to understand what it means. Like, see, in this sentence, after finishing homework, the TV was turned off. Right. So in this sentence, we have the TV was turned off. Does it have anything to do with finishing homework? It doesn't, right? If anything, if someone is like overthinking or something, maybe then they'll think like, okay, I finished my homework and then I turned on the TV. But this sentence does not imply that. There is no I, or like, you know, there is no subject like that in the sentence. So after finishing homework is a dangling modifier. Dangling isn't something जो लटक रहा है. मतलब it's just, you know, lying there. There is no use. Like, for a modifier to work as a modifier, there should be something that it is modifying, right? For this after finishing homework, there is nothing which it can modify. After finishing homework and TV being turned on, there has to be a link, right? In this sentence, on the other hand, after finishing homework, I turned on the TV. Here we understand this I finished the homework and then they turned on the TV. So in the first sentence, which is the incorrect sentence, it is a dangling modifier because it is dangling. It does not have a noun. It does not have a verb to, like, you know, modify. In the second case though, after finishing homework, we have I. Like, so after finishing homework is modifying the I, which is the subject of the sentence, right? So this is a correct sentence, this is an incorrect sentence. These kind of errors are called dangling modifier errors. Next, we have something called the misplaced modifier. Like, the modifier is present, there is a subject also present, like something which is it is modifying, but what it is modifying, it is either ambiguous or it is placed in a different place. Like, she gave cookies to the kids on paper plates. On paper plates is the modifier here, right? When we read the sentence, like, go very slowly, it says she gave cookies to the kids on paper plates. So on paper plates is essentially qualifying or like modifying the kids. So were the kids on paper plates? No, right? The cookies were on paper plates. So this on paper plates, this modifier should be with the cookies. It should not be with the kids. So the correct sentence will be she gave the kids cookies on a paper plate. Now you see, on paper plates is with the cookies. So this makes sense now. This is the correct grammatically. Third type is something called a redundant modifier, where we don't really need a modifier, but we still have it. The final end of the movie surprised us. End already means final, right? Why do you need like another final for it? So the end of the movie surprised us, or the movie finale, something like that. End and final ek saath mein, it's not needed. So these are the like three kinds of errors that we can encounter with modifiers. They usually pop up a lot in like error detections questions. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay, so we have another question. So 4 such statements are given. We have to identify if there is any statement which is wrong. If not, then it's all sentences correct. So yeah, just give it a try for a minute. Okay, let's read through the sentences now. Walking through the park, I enjoyed the fresh morning air. This is the correct sentence, right? Walking through the park is a modifier. Who was walking through the park? I was. So it's near I. So it's correct. The students had completed their homework before the teacher collected it. This again is correct. Had completed their homework before the teacher collected it. Nothing wrong, no dangling modifiers here. Driving down the highway, a deer suddenly appeared in front of the car. This is a classic classic example of a dangling modifier. Driving down the highway, we were driving down the highway, the car was driving down the highway, the deer was not driving down the highway, right? So driving down the highway should be near the car, it should not be near the deer. So this is a wrong sentence. So sentence C is incorrect. So option C should be the correct choice here. The sentence can be something like, a deer suddenly appeared in front of the car when we were driving down the highway, something like that. She baked a cake for her friend's birthday and decorated it beautifully. Yeah, this is fine. Decorated it beautifully. Beautifully is the modifier here. How did she decorate it? She decorated it beautifully. So this is again correct. It makes sense. So all of the sentences are correct except for C. So option C is the correct choice here. Let's move on to the next articles. Yeah. So today we are essentially discussing everything related to the structure of a sentence, right? So whenever we are talking about structure, we have something called the articles also. We are very familiar with what articles are. It's a, and, the, right? The articles form, they are a part of something called the determiners, which some grammarians say ki like it is the ninth part of speech. Some will say ki no, it is describing the noun only, the subject and all, so the noun only. So this should be clubbed with the adjectives. So there is like debate to it, but we are not concerned with the debate anyways. So anyways, what are articles? Words be used before nouns to indicate if the noun is specific or general. Specific or general means what? Like when I say a bottle, I mean it can be any bottle. But when I say the bottle, I mean this particular bottle when I say. So tabi the, it's like defined. You know, the Taj Mahal. There is one Taj Mahal. So whenever I say Taj Mahal, I am referring to that particular thing only. But when I say the Mahal, just a Mahal, that doesn't make sense, because India has so many mahals. Mahal as in forts, right? There are like thousands of them. There's like, you know, in Jaipur, Maharashtra, so many places, everywhere they have so many forts. So when I say just fort, it doesn't make sense. But when I'm talking about, say, the Ranthambore fort, tabi it makes more sense, because we are talking about a very specific. So when we are talking about something very specific, we use the definite article the. When we are talking about something not so specific, we use the indefinite articles. A and an, when do we use a, when do we use an? So for an, we have something called the vowel sounds. Okay. There's a, e, I, and o. So these are like the 5 vowel sounds. We cannot blindly go with, like, you know, the vowels like a, e, I, o, u, because at many cases we'll see that a word begins with a vowel, but it does not use an, it uses a, like a 1 rupee coin, right? Although it begins with a o, it has a sound of wa. One, when we say, it's a wa, it's not a o sound, right? So that is why we use a here, we don't use an. An is used whenever it is one of these sounds, like a, e, I, and o. A sounds is like, you know, apple, a, right? It will take an a. A is like umbrella. When I say umbrella, it's an a, right? So although it starts with an u, the pronunciation is umbrella, so it's an a. Similarly, e is for ink. Like when I say ink, it starts with an I, but the sound it makes is an E. O is like, ox. When I say ox, it makes an O sound. And I is like ice cream. When I say ice cream, it's an IE sound, right? So words, all of these will take an. So that is, now another thing, when we say hour, like ghanta, like minutes and hours, when I say hour, I say hour. It's like an R sound, right? It's not an H sound. The H sound is not prominent. So hour will also take a an. So that is why it is better to go by the sounds than by the actual vowels, because if you go by the actual vowels, how many words will you memorize? Like, okay, hour takes an, but like horse, it also starts with an H, it takes an A, right? So how do I tell? The difference is based on the vowel sounds. So if the word when you pronounce the word, if it makes one of these 5 sounds, it will take a vowel, it will take an. Otherwise, for any other word, it will take a A. Next, we have something called when we use the is the definite article, right? Whenever there is something definite, we'll use the. What are definites? Known nouns. I saw a dog, the dog was barking. I saw a dog. When I saw the dog, I did not really know which dog it was, like I saw a dog on the road. Next, when I say the dog was barking, tabhi I mean it ki like that dog which I saw on the road, that dog was barking. So here with the dog we use the. Before, when we don't really know what the dog is, who the dog is, we use an A, indefinite. In the second sentence, it is definite, definitely this dog. So that is the thing. We use the with one of a kind things like the sun, the sky, the earth, the Taj Mahal, as I said, stuff like that which is very unique, which is one of a kind, we use the. Superlatives and ordinals. With any superlative degree, like good is a 1 degree, better is like comparative, and superlative is best. So whenever we use a superlative, we'll use the, like the best. And ordinal means what? Ordinal means order, something which describes order, like the first or the second, the fifth, any word which tells us about the order, that will use a the. The tallest, tall, taller, tallest. So the. Geographical names like the Himalayas, the Pacific Ocean, the Nile, but we don't use it with countries and cities, right? Some exceptions are there, like the USA, the UK, the United Kingdom. These use the, but we won't use the India or the Australia. Although when we say the Democratic Republic of India, tabhi we use a the. So that's there. Musical instruments general, like she plays the violin, she plays the guitar, anything like that, we use the. Time expressions: in the morning, during the night, at the weekend. Time expressions, we'll use a the. And groups for nationalities: the French, the elderly, the rich, these kind of groups, or like any group essentially, like the smart people in the class, or like let's say the BJP workers, something like that. Anything which talks about a group, we can use the there. So that is it. That these are, although this is not like an exclusive list, there can be other cases also where we use the, which is not covered here, but this essentially covers like the most common things that we encounter in our questions and stuff. Let's move on to some questions now. Okay, so in this question, the sentences is marked A, B, C, and D. We have to select the section which contains an error. Okay. OVO Energy has created a software to identify when a user has sent a potentially unnecessary email and prompt them to be more thought. Okay, so here you see Over energy has created a software, that's fine. To identify when a user has, okay, this is also fine. Potentially sent an unnecessary email, this is also fine. And prompt them to be more thought. This doesn't make sense now. It should be to be more thoughtful. So the error is in the D part. So option B is the correct choice here. Okay, so in this sentence, the being a brother of six, the house was always clamorous and bustling with activities of all sorts. Okay, so the house was clamorous and bustling with activities of all sorts. Okay, that's fine. What does that have to do with being a brother of six? And who is a brother of six? This is a classic example of a dangling modifier, right? Because we don't really know who is this brother of six, because the remaining sentence does not talk about any person like that. The house can obviously not be a brother of six, right? There are not like six houses who are brothers. So this is a dangling modifier. Option A is the correct choice here. The correct sentence can be something like, when we try to infer, like, I was a brother of six and my house was always clamorous and busting with activities of all sorts. Something like that makes sense, right? Like, I have someone who is a brother of six and their house was bustling and clamoring with, all the activities. So that makes sense. Otherwise, being a brother of six individually does not make any sense. So option A is the correct choice. Okay, so in this sentence, this morning the weather was very cold at my place, so I felt like having coffee with my friend. So me and Vivek met at Starbucks and had hot coffee. Okay, at the surface it sounds fine, right? Like, this morning the weather was cold, so I felt like having a coffee. But the error is me and Vivek. See, me and Vivek met at Starbucks. Here, this is what? This is the subject. For the pronouns, there can be a subject form when it is used as a subject. There can be an object form when it is used as an object. And there can be a possessive form as well. Like, for instance, I is when we use it as a subject. Me is when we use it as an object. My is when we use it as a possessive. So here, because it is used as a subject, right? So me and Vivek met at Starbucks. What is the sentence about? The sentence is about me and Vivek. So me and Vivek is the subject. So whenever it is the subject, it has to be an I. So it should be Vivek and I met at Starbucks and had hot coffee. So the error is in part C. This thing can be done for other other pronouns also. Like, we becomes us, the possessive is our, you remains you only, he becomes him, his, she becomes her and hers. Like, when I say possessive, it is like my pen. The first person, I own the pen, so it is my pen. So my is a possessive. Like, this book is hers, as in this book belongs to her. So whenever there is possessive, we'll use this. And we have they becomes them, theirs. So this is essentially, you know, the subject, object and possessive form. This actually comes in handy when we discuss voice and narration, which will be in the later videos. So yeah, and let's move on to the next question then. Similarly, here in this question, we are supposed to identify the sentences which are grammatically incorrect. Let's read through the sentences. The athlete was determined to give in his best effort. Okay, give in, this in is like, doesn't make sense. Give his best effort means मैं अपना best effort दूंगा. So that makes sense. But give in means to like to forgo, like he gave in to the temptations, like he just, you know, that is a different thing. That is called a phrasal verb. So give is one meaning, give in is another meaning. So this is not a correct sentence. The manager promised to resolve as soon as possible. The manager promised to resolve what? That is not told here, na? Ki like what did he decide to resolve? So this is like an empty thing. So although there is no grammatical error here, but like a sentence should always make sense. Resolve what? There is no answer. Even if it were something like resolve this as soon as possible, still we would have understood ki, okay, in the previous sentence maybe there was something this. This does not make sense on its own. So this is also wrong. The questions from the mock were super difficult to solve. Okay, this is the correct sentence. The questions from the mock, it's a plural subject, so were is a correct thing. It's from subject verb agreement. The report that the intern prepared in a hurry, it was full of errors. Okay, so the report that the intern prepared in a hurry was full of errors. That makes sense. Or the intern prepared the report in a hurry and it was full of errors. You know, those are the ones that make sense. It was full of errors on its own is a very misplaced dangling, it's like an unnecessary modifier. You don't need it here. So this is also a wrong thing. She looked over the contract but failed to read the fine print carefully. Again, this is a correct sentence. She looked over the contract. Look over is the correct use, but failed to read the fine print. Okay. Carefully, again, failed to read, right? Read what? Read the fine print carefully. So carefully is the adverb qualifying read. This is again fine. So A, B and D we have the wrong options. So option C here is the correct choice. Let's move on to the last question. Okay, so in this question, the question was changed actually. Okay, so this statement is actually wrong. This is changed. Okay, running through the park, a squirrel startled me. So in this statement, a squirrel startled me. Running through the park. Who was running through the park? Was it the squirrel or was it me? I was running through the park, and that is when the squirrel startled me, right? So this is again a case of a misplaced modifier. So this is a wrong sentence. It should be running through the park. While I was running through the park, a squirrel startled me, or I was startled when a squirrel. I was startled by a squirrel when I was running through the park. Something like that. This is a wrong sentence. The discussion was held between all the team members. Okay, the discussion was held between. That is not correct, right? Team members, any team, there is like more than two people, right? So whenever there is more than 2 people, it should be among. So the discussion was held among the team members. So this is also a wrong statement. She is interested on learning new languages. Again, interested in learning new languages. It's not on learning new languages. It's called appropriate prepositions. So she is interested in learning new languages. So this is also a wrong statement. The professor, after reviewing the assignments, praised the students' efforts. Okay. Here, see, after reviewing the assignments, the professor only did that. So this is a fine. Praise the students' efforts. Again, this is fine. So B, C, and D are wrong statements. So option D should be the correct choice here. Yeah. Okay. So with this, we have come to the end of today's session. There will be follow-up classes on grammar. So where we'll be discussing the other things like tenses, narration, voices, and everything.